A frozen graveyard stretched as far as the eye could see. Broken swords lay buried beneath the snow. Fallen soldiers rested where they died, their blood staining the once pure white ground a dark crimson. Amid the devastation, one man remained standing. Aster A. Elmheim. His breathing was ragged. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth as he clutched the deep wound at his side. Every breath burned his lungs, yet his amber eyes remained fixed on the figure standing atop the ridge. Lord Roderick A. Elmheim, the man who had raised him, the man who had betrayed him. Roderick glanced over his shoulder, barely acknowledging the battered survivor. Aster, his voice held no warmth, no concern, not even anger, only indifference. I entrusted you with the Eastern Subjugation Force. The Duke finally turned his head slightly. Why are you here? The freezing wind howled between them. Aster remained silent. His heart pounded as years of confusion, pain, and loyalty suddenly came together. Like lightning tearing through the darkness, the truth revealed itself. Slowly, Aster raised his head. A faint smile appeared on his blood-stained face. A smile filled not with joy, but with despair and hatred. To kill you. The words echoed across the battlefield. His sword trembled in his hand as blood dripped onto the snow. At last, he spoke the truth he had ignored for years. From the beginning, his voice shook. You planned to use my unit as bait. His eyes narrowed. You intended to throw us away once we were no longer useful. The silence that followed was unbearable. Aster swallowed hard. His voice became barely more than a whisper. Isn't that right? He clenched his jaw. Father, Lord Roderick sneered. The expression on his face was not guilt. It was disgust. That is the purpose of a wingless one. His crimson eyes looked down on Aster as if staring at an insect. Isn't it, my foolish son? This was the story of Aster A. Elmheim, a man whose entire life had been built on a lie. The House of Elmheim was the greatest martial family on the continent, a family revered by kings, feared by enemies, and worshipped by the masses. Yet for Aster, it was a prison. At its head stood Lord Roderick A. Elmheim, a man celebrated as the kingdom's shield, a hero to millions. But behind closed doors, he was something far more terrifying. Aster remembered the beginning. Years ago, during a brutal snowstorm, Roderick found him on the verge of death. The Duke could have walked away, but for reasons Aster never understood, he saved him. That single act of kindness became Aster's entire world. He devoted his life to repaying the debt. He trained relentlessly. He fought every battle without hesitation. He spilled blood for the House of Elmheim. He obeyed every command, no matter how dangerous, no matter how cruel. He believed if he worked hard enough, if he proved himself, he would finally be accepted. But that day never came. To the Elmheim family, Aster was a disgrace, a stain on their bloodline. His siblings mocked him. His peers ridiculed him. Don't get cocky, wingless. The insult followed him everywhere. Because in this world, the wing crest was everything. A mark engraved upon the body, proof of magical talent. The more wings a person possessed, the greater their mana, the stronger their future. But Aster was different. He was the only member of the ducal house, born without magic. No mana, no crest, nothing. A cruel twist of fate had stolen his birthright, and the family branded him with a title he hated, wingless. Still, he refused to surrender. Every day he trained with the sword. Every night he collapsed from exhaustion. His hands bled. His body broke. But he endured, because he believed that loyalty would one day be rewarded. Standing on the battlefield now, Aster finally understood what reward awaited him. His eyes darted toward the snow-covered trees. Something was wrong. The wind carried more than frost. It carried killing intent. Then, shadows emerged. 1, 10, 20. Hidden soldiers stepped from the blizzard. Their weapons glimmered beneath the moonlight. An ambush. Aster's heart sank. Slowly, he turned back toward his father. Father, his voice trembled, not with fear, but with pain. I trusted you. He gritted his teeth. I followed you all this time. His eyes burned. And this, his voice cracked. This is how you repay me. Lord Roderick didn't even blink. His expression remained as cold as the storm. What expectations could a mere tool possibly have? Each word stabbed deeper than a blade. Your purpose is over. He turned away. You are no longer needed. Something inside Aster broke. All those years, all that sacrifice, all that loyalty, worthless, thrown away like garbage. A burning rage erupted inside him. Aster roared. With every ounce of strength he had left, he lunged forward. "Father!" His sword flashed. Its target, Lord Roderick's throat. "I was a fool for believing in you." Clang! The Duke casually knocked the blade aside. Aster stumbled. Regret crashed over him. What a pathetic fool I was. Still, his blade had drawn blood. A thin cut appeared across Roderick's neck. The Duke touched the wound. Then, he smiled. A cold smile. The kind that made Aster's blood run cold. Suddenly, glowing red chains burst from the air. They wrapped around Aster's arms, his legs, his chest. Arg! He struggled desperately, but the chains only tightened. Mana blades flew through the storm. Slash, slash, slash. Blood sprayed across the snow. Agony consumed him. Aster screamed. His strength faded with each passing second. A nobleman stepped forward. He looked down at Aster with open contempt. "You still don't understand, do you?" He laughed. "A wingless man will always be wingless." He pointed at Aster, crawling helplessly in the snow. "Honestly," he smirked, "this suits you." Face pressed against the frozen ground, Aster's thoughts began to unravel. "If you were going to throw me away, why did you save me?" Lord Roderick crouched beside him. "Don't flatter yourself." His voice was emotionless. "I never needed you." He grabbed Aster by the hair and forced him to look up. Crimson eyes glowed in the darkness. "What I wanted," he leaned closer, "was the power of the 7 wings sleeping inside you." Aster froze. 7 wings. The words echoed endlessly in his fatting mind. Roderick stood and brushed the snow from his gloves. "Your mother was useful." He spoke casually, as if discussing livestock. "She carried the child I needed." Aster's eyes widened. His entire world shook. "Wait, what are you talking about?" Roderick turned away, leaving him behind. "Answer me." Aster stretched out his trembling hand. "Roderick." But the Duke never looked back. The cold was the last thing Aster felt. His vision blurred. Snow filled his sight. A church steeple appeared in the distance, the final image of his first life. Then darkness swallowed everything. A faint warmth, a strange light. Aster slowly opened his eyes. Everything around him was white. "Am I dead?" "No." The freezing wind stung his skin. Snow, a blizzard, and beside him, a woman frozen solid. Aster blinked. His body felt strange, small, weak. He raised his hand. Tiny fingers, an infant's hand. No. His heart raced. This can't be real. But it was. He had been reborn, a warrior soul trapped inside the body of a baby. A second chance. Aster stared at his tiny feet. This body. He clenched his little hand. Is it really mine? The shock slowly settled in. His gaze shifted to the frozen woman beside him. A faint memory surfaced. She had saved him. Long ago. A shout echoed through the blizzard. Search everywhere. Horses thundered across the snow. A group of knights approached. No matter what, find that woman. The commander pointed ahead. For Lord Roderick's sake. His voice boomed across the storm. Recover the baby she abducted. Aster's eyes widened. Lord Roderick. That name. The name he hated most. A terrible thought crept into his mind. I was told. I was found during a blizzard. His breathing quickened. Don't tell me. I've returned to the past. The search party's lanterns flickered in the distance. They weren't searching for treasure. They were hunting him. Aster forced himself to calm down. That's impossible. I'll figure it out later. Right now, I need to survive. He glanced at the frozen woman, then at the endless mountain ahead. If he stayed here, he would fall into Roderick's hands again. Never, not in this life. With the willpower of a seasoned warrior, Aster began to crawl. The snow was deeper than his tiny body. Every movement was torture. His chest burned. His fingers went numb, but he refused to stop. I have to get away, as far away as possible. His tiny hands dug into the snow. His heart pounded wildly. Every push forward felt like fighting death itself. The freezing air stabbed his lungs. Damn it, he gasped. I can't breathe. Suddenly, heat spread through his body. A strange warmth surged through his hands. My arms, they burned, not from the cold, from something hidden deep within him. The power of the 7 wings. It was waking up. Aster gritted his teeth. No, not now. He dragged himself forward anyway, leaving a lonely trail across the mountain. His first life had been spent crawling, begging, fighting for scraps of affection. Never again. His amber eyes blazed with determination. I will survive. Roderick's cold expression flashed through his mind. Aster clenched his tiny fists. Roderick. His voice trembled. I swear. The promise remained unfinished, but his hatred burned brighter than the storm. He crawled and crawled, refusing to surrender. Every painful step was a vow. This life would belong to no one but himself. Eventually, his strength gave out. The blizzard faded. The world became quiet. Aster collapsed into the snow. His consciousness slowly drifted away. Crunch, crunch. Footsteps approached. A tall man stood over him. Silver hair swayed gently in the mountain wind. Behind him stood a young girl. Father, she pointed at the snow. Over here. The man froze. His eyes widened. What in the world? Viscount Hifrid Elmheim stared at the child lying in the snow. He quickly knelt down and lifted Aster into his arms. Warmth. For the first time since his rebirth, Aster felt warmth. Why is there a baby in a place like this? Hifrid's voice trembled. Not with disgust, not with disappointment, but with concern. Aster rested his head against the man's chest. His exhausted eyes slowly closed. This was strange. He wasn't being treated like a weapon or a burden. For the first time, someone held him like a child. Hifrid looked at the trail behind them. His expression became serious. The path stretched across the mountains, a line carved through the snow, a trail of blood and determination. This distance, Hifrid muttered. How could an infant possibly crawl this far? He couldn't understand it, but the evidence was right in front of him. This child hadn't simply survived. He had fought for every inch. Hifrid looked back at the sleeping infant. Who are you? He whispered, unaware that he had just taken in the Duke's greatest secret. Wrapped in warmth, Aster finally drifted into a deep sleep. The abandoned son of the tyrant was gone, and a new future had quietly begun. He floated through endless darkness. Where am I? Aster looked around. There was no snow, no battlefield, only silence. In front of him floated the image of a small child, his current self, tiny, fragile, yet surrounded by countless glowing lights. Like feathers drifting in the wind, Aster stared at them. A strange feeling washed over him. A new beginning. Suddenly, a voice echoed. His consciousness snapped back. Thus his body felt unbearably heavy. His eyes slowly opened. Bright light flooded his vision. Sister, a cheerful voice shouted. The little one is awake. Before Aster could react, he was surrounded. Several girls leaned over him. Their curious faces filled his vision. Look at him. He's so cute. Don't squeeze him too hard. You'll hurt his tiny nose. Aster stared at them in horror. What is happening? He had once commanded armies, ruled battlefields. Now, he was being pinched on the cheeks and cuddled. This is ridiculous. He screamed internally. The mighty General Aster A. Elmheim had become everyone's favorite toy. One of the girls hugged him tightly. Aster struggled. His pride suffered more damage than his body. This wasn't the rebirth he imagined. HMPH. Summoning all his strength, he escaped. The girls gasped. He's getting away. Aster crawled across the floor with military precision. His target, any exit. His tiny arms moved desperately. Escape comes first. The girls stared in disbelief. Why is he crawling so fast? Catch him. The chase began. Aster raced down the hallway. The girls followed close behind. Stop. Why are they chasing me? Aster cried inside his head. His spirit was willing. Unfortunately, his baby legs were not. Cornered. Aster stopped. His instincts screamed. Danger. Suddenly, his hand began to glow. Golden light spilled between his fingers. His eyes widened. No, the 7 wings, the forbidden power that ruined his first life, was awakening. Aster gritted his teeth. Stop. But the power ignored him. The golden light grew brighter and brighter until, boom, a pillar of golden light erupted. The entire manor shook. Aster was launched straight into the sky. Magic. Panic gripped him. He wasn't crawling anymore. He was flying, like a shooting star. For a brief moment, he floated, suspended high above the manor. bathed in golden light. The world below looked tiny, peaceful. Then the power faded, and gravity remembered him. Oh no! Aster looked down. The ground rushed toward him. I can't control it. The wind roared in his ears. His tiny body tumbled through the air. This body can't survive this. Not again. Please. Not again. He shut his eyes and waited for the impact, but it never came. Instead, strong arms caught him, effortlessly. A deep voice chuckled, falling from the sky already. The man shook his head. You're a truly mysterious child. Aster slowly opened one eye, then froze. That face. He knew that face. Viscount Hifrid Elmheim, Lord Roderick's younger brother. Aster's heart skipped a beat. Impossible. The man standing before him should have died years ago, along with the entire Hifrid family. He looked around. The grand manor, the peaceful atmosphere, the smiling servants. Everything felt familiar, yet completely different. A portrait hanging nearby confirmed his fears. Viscount Hifrid Mu Elmheim, the head of the Hifrid family, a hero once celebrated beside his older brother, one of the kingdom's greatest protectors. But the Hifrid Aster remembered had died during the Civil War, his family erased, his name forgotten. Aster stared at his tiny hands. The golden glow of the 7 wings still flickered around them. The truth was undeniable. I really did return to the past. A bitter smile formed on his lips. I escaped the Duke. He looked up at Hifrid, only to be caught by his younger brother. As Hifrid carried him back into the manor, Aster's eyes narrowed. The pieces on the board had changed, and this time, he intended to rewrite the ending of his story completely. To her, he was nothing short of a miracle. To Aster, however, this kindness was a weapon he didn't know how to defend against. The Viscountess gently pulled him into her embrace. The soft scent of lavender surrounded him, warm and comforting. Her hand stroked his hair as she whispered softly, "You were scared, weren't you? It's all right now, you're safe." For a moment, Aster froze. In 2 lifetimes, he had never known the warmth of a mother's embrace. The feeling was so foreign that it nearly shattered the walls he had built around his heart. But Aster A. Elmheim was no ordinary child. Behind those golden eyes was a general who had been betrayed by his own father, abandoned to die in the snow, and reborn with a burning desire for revenge. His tiny fists tightened. This warmth, could he really trust it? Viscount Hifrid watched the scene quietly. His sharp eyes studied the child carefully. He wasn't fooled by Aster's innocent appearance. He had seen the golden light. He had witnessed the overwhelming power, and he knew exactly what it meant. "This child possesses tremendous power," Hifrid said. His voice was calm, but the atmosphere in the room instantly grew heavy. Slowly, he lifted the cloth covering Aster's leg. There, etched into his skin, was a crimson mark, the mark of destiny. "This crest is proof." Aster's heart skipped a beat. The secret he desperately wanted to hide was now exposed before the younger brother of his greatest enemy. The Viscountess gasped. 7 wings. Her voice trembled. "It really is the ultimate power of the Elmheim bloodline, the same power Lord Roderick would kill to possess." Aster looked down at the glowing mark. "Why is this on my body?" His mind raced. In his previous life, he had been called wingless. A failure. A disgrace. This wasn't supposed to exist. Everything he knew about himself was wrong. Suddenly, memories flooded his mind. The blizzard. The battlefield. Roderick standing over his dying body. "What I needed," the Duke's cold voice echoed, "was the power of the 7 wings hidden inside you." Aster remembered the look in his father's eyes. Not love, not regret, only greed. He had never been a son. He had been nothing more than a vessel, a tool meant to be used and discarded. Roderick turned his back and walked away, leaving Aster to die in the snow. "I see now," Aster had whispered as his vision faded. "So that's why you saved me." Back in the present, rage burned within him. His golden eyes glimmered. So that was it. Roderick had picked him up all those years ago just to steal this power. And the cruelest part, Aster had never even known it existed. The Viscountess looked at him with pity. Aster hated that look. She saw a cursed child, a victim. She didn't see the man who had commanded armies. She didn't see the hatred buried deep inside him. The room fell silent. Finally, the Viscountess asked, "What are we going to do with him?" Hifrid remained quiet for a long moment. He understood the situation perfectly. Handing Aster over to the main family would be a death sentence, but hiding him would mean defying Lord Roderick. Aster's mind raced. This is bad. If Hifrid is anything like his brother, I'll become a weapon all over again. His tiny fists clenched. I won't allow it. I need this power. I need it to destroy Roderick. The room remained silent. Then Hifrid spoke. We'll adopt him. Everyone froze. Even Aster. Hifrid's voice was firm. He will become part of our family. There was no hesitation, no doubt, only determination. Aster stared at him in disbelief. In his first life, he had been treated like a tool. Now, someone was offering him a family, a name, a place to belong. Hifrid gently placed a hand on his head, not to control him, not to test him, simply to comfort him. This little one is still a fledgling. Hifrid smiled. He can't fly on his own yet. Aster frowned. A fledgling. He wanted to protest. He had commanded thousands. He had survived betrayal and death. Yet, he remained silent. Hifrid looked toward his wife. Their eyes met. No words were needed. Until the day he can stand on his own. Hifrid said, I will take responsibility for him. It was more than a promise. It was a declaration, a challenge to the fate Roderick had prepared. Aster's eyes narrowed. For the first time since his rebirth, revenge no longer felt impossible. He had a foundation. The Hifrid family could become his shield. And one day, his fortress. Suddenly, thud, the door burst open. A pile of girls tumbled into the room. We've been discovered. The daughters of House Hifrid scrambled to their feet. Each wore the same guilty expression. Viscount Hifrid sighed. Were you all listening at the door? The girls looked away. None of them answered. Aster blinked. The serious atmosphere vanished instantly. His new family was unexpected. The room quickly filled with noise. Mother, can I hold him? He's so cute. Look at his tiny hands. The Vicomtesse smiled as she held Aster close. The girls crowded around her. Aster looked at them quietly. They saw a miracle. He saw a complication. The sun slowly set, marking the end of the first day of his second life. Aster was no longer the Duke's discarded weapon. He had become the hidden secret of House Hifrid, a piece that no one expected. Aster, the name was officially given to him. A star, a symbol of hope. But to Aster, it meant something else. It was the banner under which he would wage war. He stared at the moon outside his window. Time. In his first life, he had wasted it. In this life, time would become his greatest weapon. 10 years passed. The Hifrid Manor became his home, and his battlefield. The boy who once crawled through the snow had grown into a young man. The storm that had slept for a decade was finally ready to awaken. We've been waiting for you, Lord Hifrid. Servants bowed as the family arrived. Viscount Hifrid's hair had turned silver over the years, but his eyes remained sharp. For 10 years, he had hidden a monster from a tyrant. The carriage door opened. A pair of polished boots touched the ground. The world was about to meet the shame of the Elmheim family, and they had no idea what was coming. Aster stepped into the sunlight. Gone was the helpless infant. In his place stood a handsome young man with golden eyes and a gaze sharp enough to cut steel. The rebellion was no longer an idea. It walked beside them. Sister Finn, please watch your step. His voice was calm and composed. He offered his hand to Finn, the same girl who once chased him around the manor. Now she relied on him more than anyone. Thank you, Aster. Finn smiled brightly. Her pink hair swayed gently in the breeze. She had no idea. Beneath her brother's calm expression lay years of hatred and an unshakable desire to see Lord Roderick fall. Together they entered the Sword Dance Assembly, a gathering held every year by one of the noble branches under House Elmheim, a place where reputations were forged and destroyed. The arena stood like a monument to power. Here, noble families measured their strength. Alliances were formed, rivals were humiliated, and the weak were crushed without mercy. Hundreds of young swordsmen filled the grounds. Each carried the pride of their family. Each dreamed of glory. But Aster wasn't here for glory. He was here for something far more important. Whispers spread through the crowd. The Hifrid family is here. They really came again. Haven't they embarrassed themselves enough? The laughter grew louder. I heard they adopted some random boy because they couldn't produce an heir. They're tarnishing the Elmheim name. Aster listened quietly. His expression never changed. To everyone else, these were insults. To him, they were simply the voices of future obstacles. Vin clenched her fists. Don't listen to them. She lowered her voice. People like this only respect strength. Aster glanced at her, then looked toward the massive gates ahead. His golden eyes narrowed. So, he thought, which one of them should I start with? Aster didn't need Finn's protection, but he appreciated the determination shining in her eye. The Hifrid family might be outcasts, mocked and ignored by the rest of the Elmheim clan, but they weren't broken. Not yet. Viscount Hifrid looked over the grand arena with a grim expression. This is where our family stands now, he said quietly. At the bottom, the laughingstock beneath the Elmheim banner, a branch family that everyone looked down on. He turned to Aster. His eyes searched the boy's face one last time. Hifrid gestured toward the magnificent buildings and the nobles whispering behind their hands. I wanted you to see this. He wanted Aster to understand, to feel the crushing weight of their disgrace, to let that humiliation sharpen his resolve. Are you disappointed? Hifrid asked. Aster didn't hesitate. Disappointment was for people who still expected kindness from the world. He expected nothing, only a reckoning. He looked up at the towering manor. His golden eyes were calm. Cold. No, father. A faint smile touched his lips. I'm fine with it being this chilly. The cold wind of the Elmheim estate meant nothing to him. It couldn't compare to the ice buried deep within his heart. After all, this was the place where he died, and this time he was the one bringing winter. Viscount Hifrid laughed. The sound echoed against the stone walls. That's good to hear. Pride shone in his eyes. Sometimes Aster felt older than he was, as if the soul of a seasoned warrior hid beneath his calm expression. The sight of the manor stirred painful memories. In his previous life, this had been the place of his humiliation. I made my debut here as the disgrace of the Elmheim family. He remembered kneeling, the mocking laughter, the sneers, the disgust in their eyes. Wingless, worthless, trash. The boy they ridiculed was gone. Only the rebel remained. Aster stood beneath the looming towers, the 7 wings hidden within him stirred. A faint golden glow flickered in his eyes, a silent declaration of war. Everything was different now. The power Roderick once stole was finally his. Aster narrowed his eyes. His analysis was complete. The enemy was arrogant, careless, certain of their superiority. Perfect. Aster, Finn, and Viscount Hifrid walked forward together, not as victims, but as challengers entering enemy territory. From a balcony above, several young nobles watched them. Among them stood Dali's Elmheim. At his side was Grian Elmheim. Their eyes were filled with contempt. They saw a weak branch family desperately clinging to relevance. They didn't know the boy walking beside Hifrid had already died once. To them, this was a social event. To Aster, it was a battlefield. He kept his expression calm. Let them laugh. Let them whisper. The higher they stood, the harder they would fall. They reached the grand entrance. Hifrid took a deep breath. Well then, the doors opened. Aster stepped inside. The hall was beautiful. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, golden decorations. Disgusting, beneath the luxury, hid the rotten heart of House Elmheim. Smiles concealed cruelty. Kind words hid sharp blades. Aster smirked. Let's make this a memorable debut. The rebellion against the Duke wouldn't begin on a battlefield. It would begin here, in the center of their pride. The history of House Elmheim was written in blood and steel. This was an age where knights ruled the world. Strength wasn't a choice. It was survival, and no family embodied strength more than the Elmheims. Their swordsmanship was legendary. Every strike carried centuries of pride. Every victory strengthened their authority. Only the strongest could lead. Only the powerful were remembered. But even among these monsters, there existed a symbol above all else. The wings, a crest that determined one's destiny. The more wings one possessed, the greater their power. It wasn't simply magic. It was proof of supremacy. And hidden beneath Aster's skin slept the ultimate symbol, the 7 wings, a power capable of reducing this entire family to ashes. Present day, Aster stood on the balcony, overlooking the grand hall. Nobles laughed, children competed, servants rushed about. He sighed. This place is just as overwhelming as I remember. Suddenly, he understood why his other sisters, Furine and Flare, refused to attend events like this. Beneath all the glamour, the atmosphere was suffocating. Cruelty dressed as nobility, smiles hiding malice. Nothing had changed. The Sword Dance Festival wasn't a celebration. It was a contest of pride, a place where noble families showed off their strength and crushed anyone beneath them. Aster, he turned. Ulfin was staring at him. Concern filled her eyes. Are you nervous? She tilted her head. It's your first Sword Dance Festival. Aster smiled faintly. Not really. He glanced across the hall. It feels nostalgic. He paused. Or maybe. His eyes darkened. It's simply unpleasant. Ulfin blinked. She didn't understand. How could someone his age say something like that? Before she could ask, Vikon Hifrid approached. Well, he said, I have a meeting to attend. He placed a hand on Aster's shoulder. I'm counting on you to look after Ulfin. Ulfin puffed out her cheeks. Father, she crossed her arms. I'm older than Aster. Aster chuckled. That's because you're clumsy, sister. What? Ulfin glared at him. Hifrid laughed. Then his expression grew serious. There are many nobles your age here. He looked at both of them, tried to make some connections. Then he leaned close to Aster. His voice dropped to a whisper. Whatever happens, don't let anyone discover the 7 wings. Aster nodded. The secret was their greatest protection and their greatest danger. As Hifrid disappeared into the crowd, Aster surveyed the room. The atmosphere instantly changed. The nobles were watching him, whispering, judging. Their smiles were fake, their curiosity poisonous. Aster didn't care. He wasn't here to make friends. He was here to measure his enemies. His golden eyes swept across the hall. The hunt had begun. Aster, Ulfin called after him. Where are you going? He didn't stop. He didn't even turn around. To make some friends. The lie rolled off his tongue effortlessly. Friends? No. Targets. At the center of the crowd lounged Dolly's Elmhut, surrounded by admirers, acting like royalty. He looked up lazily, his expression twisted with annoyance. Hug. His eyes scanned Aster from head to toe. Who are you? Aster smiled politely. The perfect younger brother. The perfect disguise. Nice to meet you, Brother Dolly's. The title alone irritated him. Aster noticed the twitch in Dolly's eyebrow. Good. My name is Aster A. Elmhut. He bowed slightly. I'm your younger brother. The room fell silent. Dolly stared at him. A stranger, an adopted child, claiming the Elmheim name. I saw you from outside, Aster continued, so I thought I'd come introduce myself. Simple, polite, harmless, a perfect lie. One of Dolly's followers snorted. That's him, the adopted brat, the one picked up by the Hifrid family. Laughter spread throughout the room. Dolly's leaned back, a cruel smile spreading across his face. I see, so you're shameless enough to carry the Elmheim name. The room laughed again. Aster simply stared at them. Dolly's and Gryan, the 2 people responsible for his death. Once, their names alone filled him with fear. Now, Aster almost laughed. How pathetic. The monsters from his memories were nothing more than spoiled children. The balance of power had already changed. They just didn't know it yet. To a man who had witnessed the horrors of war and the darkest forms of betrayal, these nobles were nothing. They looked like children playing dress-up, Aster thought. Their expensive clothes and lofty titles could not hide the weakness in their hearts. Aster's eyes gleamed with a deadly light. They were children pretending to be gods, completely unaware that a true monster stood before them, quietly counting down the seconds until their downfall. Aster, the call pulled him back to reality. Ulfin grabbed his arm, her fingers tightening with urgency. She could feel the poisonous atmosphere surrounding the nobles and wanted no part of it. Come on, let's go, she urged, pulling him away from the sofa. You've already greeted everyone. She knew this gathering could only end in bloodshed, but Dolly's Elmheim wasn't about to let his prey walk away. Hey, Ulfin, he called out, his voice dripping with fake friendliness. I didn't even notice you were here. His eyes swept over her like a wolf eyeing a lamb. He enjoyed the power he held over her family. Dolly's leaned forward, his grin widening. Don't tell me you're still hiding behind your father's back. His tone was mocking. Why don't you come over here and keep us company? This is an order from the main house. He was using his status like a weapon, trying to crush her spirit. Ulfin stopped walking. Her shoulders stiffened as the insult sank in. She was caught between her pride and the crushing authority of the main family. The hall fell silent. Every eye was on her, waiting for her to bow her head. But Ulfin refused. She turned around, her eyes blazing with defiance that even shocked the nobles. I refuse. Her voice was firm and carried throughout the hall. There is no master and servant relationship between the main family and the branch family. It was a declaration of war. Before the tension could erupt, Ulfin grabbed Aster's arm again, desperate to leave those hateful faces behind. But Aster stopped her. Wait, sis. His voice was calm, yet steady enough to silence the storm gathering around them. He wasn't finished with Dolly's. Not even close. Ulfin's hands trembled as Dolly's rose from his seat. The playful arrogance vanished from his face, replaced by naked hostility. I'm not done talking yet. His words hissed through clenched teeth. Aster's gaze turned ice cold. So this was the true face of the Elmheims. Cruelty, violence, and complete disregard for anyone they considered beneath them. Dolly's was digging his own grave. He leaned closer, his crimson eyes shining with sickening malice. You know something? He asked, his smile growing wider and more twisted. He was enjoying this, preparing to strike where it hurt the most. His gaze shifted toward their father. This girl's father is a knight who couldn't even protect the king. His sneer echoed loudly enough for the entire hall to hear. He was tearing apart the only hero Fen had ever known. He failed, Dolly's continued, and then he had his arm cut off by his own brother. He laughed. The humiliation was complete. Fen lowered her head. The cruel truth pierced her heart. At that moment, revenge was no longer a choice. It was a necessity. Her face twisted with anger and shame as Dolly's kept going. I'm just glad I don't have the blood of a loser running through my veins. The insult was deliberate, a reminder of the cruel hierarchy within the Elmheim family. That was the final straw. Fen stepped forward. Take that back. Her voice trembled with fury. She demanded respect from a man who had never learned the meaning of the word. Aster remained silent, but beneath that silence, a storm was brewing. I won't let you insult my father. Her cry was abruptly cut short. Dolly's didn't pour his wine. He spatted. The red liquid splashed across her dress, a physical expression of his contempt for the Branch family. Dolly's leaned back in his chair. His voice dripped with venom. You were born into a family of useless women who can't even inherit a title. His smile widened. Your father must be so disappointed. Each word struck like a blade. He wasn't just insulting her. He was attacking her very existence. Dolly's looked at Fen as though she were dirt beneath his boots. This isn't a ballroom. He chuckled. Next time wear rags. His eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. That way it won't matter when you get soaked. Fen stood frozen. Wine dripped from her clothes. Her dignity was under attack. Behind her, Aster's presence grew heavier. The time for watching was over. Aster stared at the scene with cold indifference. I was actually worried before I came here. For 10 years, he had prepared for this reunion. He wondered how he would feel when he finally faced the people who murdered him. His eyes swept across the laughing heirs of the Elmheim Main family. I was afraid I wouldn't feel anything. Afraid that seeing your faces again wouldn't make me angry. But the fire inside him had never died. It had simply sharpened into a weapon. Aster looked at his sister, her tear-stained face, her trembling shoulders. A dark satisfaction settled in his heart. What a relief. The anger was there. The hatred was real. And it was exactly what he needed. Aster broke the silence. Hey, Dollies. His voice sliced through the noble's laughter. A wine bottle rested casually in his hand, reflecting the chandelier's light. A silent threat, one that Dolly's was too arrogant to recognize. Dolly's looked up in surprise. He was used to being the one in control. Never had he imagined that a member of the Branch family would dare challenge him. Aster stood before him, relaxed, almost bored. Then he spoke. It's good to see you're both still complete scum. The hall went silent. The mask of civility shattered. It was a direct insult, a declaration of war against the heirs of the Tyrant family. Then the bottle moved. Its contents exploded over Dolly's head. What? Dolly sputtered. His carefully styled appearance was ruined instantly. The hunter had become the prey, humiliated in front of everyone. Aster stood over him, looking utterly unimpressed. One of the nobles cried out, "Brother!" Dolly's couldn't speak. His pride, built on status and fear, had been shattered by a single act of defiance. Aster wiped a drop of liquid from his finger. Oh, he shrugged. It's just grape juice. He was mocking Dolly's earlier actions, returning the humiliation with interest. Aster smiled, a dark predatory smile. It suits a spoiled, noble brat like you perfectly. The balance of power had shifted. Aster was no longer hiding. He was attacking the very core of their arrogance. 3 years earlier, a massive burst of golden energy erupted across the training grounds. Hold it back, Aster. A desperate voice echoed through the chaos. The power of a tyrant was awakening inside a young boy, and it was far beyond his control. The explosion sent shockwaves across the grounds. Aster's sisters were caught in the aftermath, terrified, crying. One of them screamed, "Are you trying to kill us?" The weight of his power felt like a curse. Young Aster stood frozen, horrified by the destruction he had caused. "Get a grip," someone shouted, but he was just a child carrying enough power to destroy everything he loved, a burden that would define his new life. Golden wings spread behind him. a symbol of unmatched power and unimaginable danger. Aster finally understood. So this is the Seven Wings. I never imagined it possessed such terrifying power. It was a legacy written in blood and fire. Viscount Hifrid stood amidst the wreckage. His expression was grim. As he stared at the boy, one question echoed in his mind. Can this power truly be controlled? Young Aster's eyes glowed with an ancient and frightening intensity. Can he control it? And more importantly, can I? The Seven Wings was not merely a gift. It was a countdown, a force destined to reshape the Elmheim family forever. Back in the present, the calm atmosphere of the noble conference shattered. The doors burst open. A guard rushed inside, breathless and pale. "Master, this is terrible." At the head of the table sat Lord Roderick A. Elmheim. His authority filled the room. A Viscount frowned. "What is it? We are in the middle of a conference." His sharp gaze pinned the guard in place. The messenger swallowed hard. Then he finally blurted out the impossible. "The son of the main family and the son of the branch family." He paused. "They are fighting in a duel." The room went cold. The rebellion had stepped out of the shadows and into the spotlight. The news struck like lightning. "What?" Both Viscount Hifrid and Lord Roderick A. Elmheim stood in shock. The peaceful gathering had transformed into a battlefield. Viscount Hifrid wasted no time. He rushed toward the hall, his cape billowing behind him. He knew Aster's secret, and he knew exactly what was at stake. Halfway there, he nearly collided with Ulfen. She was running toward him, her face filled with panic. "Ulfen!" He grabbed her shoulders. "What on earth happened?" His voice trembled with a father's fear. The calm he had begged Aster to maintain was already gone. Behind them, the bearded Viscount appeared, looking almost delighted by the unfolding spectacle. Around him, nobles gathered at the balcony railing, their eyes gleaming with predatory curiosity. Could it really be? Whispers spread like wildfire. From the balcony, the arena below was clearly visible. A fight between brothers of the prestigious house Elmheim. That's not something you get to witness every day. The nobles smiled, eager for the unexpected entertainment. The grand hall, built to showcase wealth and elegance, had suddenly become the stage for violence. Viscount Hifrid and Ulfen stood at the railing, holding their breath. They knew the truth. Today, the world would finally see what Aster had hidden for 10 years. And depending on what happened next, nothing would ever be the same. The tension was suffocating. Even the surrounding nobles were uneasy. Sweat rolled down their faces as they realized this duel was far more serious than a simple family dispute. Among the crowd stood a blue-haired observer, silently watching. His eyes narrowed. He could sense it. The balance of power was shifting. The bearded Viscount stroked his beard, amusement flickering in his crimson eyes. "This sword dance gathering may become very interesting," he said softly. He almost seemed to hope for chaos. To him, the lives of his children were merely pieces in a larger game. Down in the arena, Dolly's Elmheim raised his sword. The four-wing crest on his hand glowed with a menacing red light. "You picked a fight with the ducal house," he sneered. "What a fool." His grin widened. "In the end, you're just a stray born in the wilderness. Do you even understand the difference between us?" Red mana burst from his hand. The crowd gasped. "That's a four-wing crest, as expected of a member of the ducal family. The aura alone is overwhelming." The spectators stared at the symbol in awe. None of them realized that the true monster was standing right across from him. Dolly's leaned forward. His eyes shone with manic arrogance. "Go on," he taunted. "Show us your wing crest." He wanted to prove his superiority, to crush the branch family beneath the weight of his birthright. Or maybe he simply needed reassurance. "Or are you too embarrassed to reveal it after seeing mine?" Aster stood calmly. His back faced the crowd. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, showing off a simple pattern with so much pride. "I could never do something so embarrassing." His golden eyes held nothing but contempt. To a man who possessed the seven wings, Dolly's display looked like a child bragging about a toy. Dolly's expression twitched, then darkened. Arrogance he could tolerate, fear he could understand, but indifference, that drove him insane. Aster's silence was louder than any insult. He finally spoke. More importantly, his voice was calm. "If I win, you'll apologize to my sister." He tilted his head. "Sounds fair, doesn't it?" Dolly's laughed. A cruel smile spread across his face. "Fine, but if I win?" His eyes gleamed. "You become my dog." The terms of humiliation hung in the air. Aster didn't react. The duel began. Dolly's lunged forward, his face twisted with murderous excitement. "I'll work you to death for the rest of your life." Red mana exploded from his blade. He aimed to end the fight in one strike. The air shrieked. Their swords collided. A shower of sparks lit up the arena. The overwhelming power of the main house crashed against a calm and unmoving opponent. Dolly's grinned wildly. Aster remained focused. The force of the attack pushed him backward. Dust swirled behind him, yet he wasn't struggling. He moved effortlessly, like a dancer stepping through a storm of steel. Still, Aster felt it. The power behind Dolly's attacks was impressive. His arms vibrated from the impact. The four-wing crest wasn't just for show. Dolly surged forward. Red mana twisted around him like a raging storm. "This is the power of the four wings," he roared. He believed his bloodline alone guaranteed victory. He mistook Aster's hidden crest for weakness. The battle became a blur. Steel clashed against steel. Dolly's attacked relentlessly. Aster parried every strike. The ringing of swords echoed through the hall like a funeral bell. High above, Ulfin gripped the railing. Her face had gone pale. "Aster!" she screamed. Her voice vanished beneath the roar of battle. She saw danger, but she still hadn't realized who the real predator was. The bearded Viscount watched closely. "Dolly's swordsmanship is immature," he observed. His voice carried no fatherly warmth. He cared more about technique than his son's life. He folded his arms. "But overwhelming magic can make up for poor skill. That is the privilege of those who possess a wing crest." He understood this truth better than anyone. Raw power, inherited strength, that was the foundation of the Elmheim family's tyranny. The difference was terrifying. If the mana inside one wing was like the flame of a candle, then the mana inside four wings was an inferno. Dolly smiled confidently. He believed he was the inferno. He had no idea that Aster was the sun. The arena floor exploded. Red mana erupted in all directions. The violent blast shook the entire hall. Smoke swallowed the battlefield. The crowd gasped. To them, it looked like the duel was over. But inside the smoke, Aster remained untouched. Dolly's laughed. Where did all that confidence go? He sneered. Is this all the Branch family can do? He thought his heritage was finally crushing his opponent. He didn't realize he was shouting at a man who had once commanded armies. The blades screamed against each other. Dolly's pressed forward, his face twisted with malice. "Didn't you say I'd apologize? Were those just empty words?" Aster's golden eyes remained calm, steady, unshakable. Dolly's raised his sword high. "Show me your power." Every ounce of mana flowed into his blade. This was no longer a game. He had to prove himself. He had to prove that his bloodline still mattered. From the balcony, a mustached noble chuckled nervously. "The match is decided." Others nodded. They saw Dolly's, but they couldn't see the monster standing before him. Aster finally moved. His sword flashed. A line of golden light sliced through the smoke. It cut through the red mana as if it never existed. Dolly's froze. His strike had been stopped. No, it had been completely overwhelmed. The counterattack had already begun. Golden mana exploded. The impact shook the entire hall. Red and gold collided in a blinding flash. The spectators shielded their eyes. Then came the impossible. Dolly's was losing. Aster pushed forward, step by step. His will was iron. Dolly's confidence vanished. Pure terror filled his eyes. "What?" he screamed. His arms buckled. He couldn't understand it. He was the legitimate heir, the chosen son of the main family. So why was he being crushed? Aster's voice drifted through the storm. Cold, sharp. "You talk too much." Those four words hit harder than any sword. Then Aster swung. Golden arcs tore through Dolly's defenses. A shockwave blasted across the arena. Dolly stumbled backward like a wounded animal. The pride of the Tyrant family was being ripped apart in front of everyone. Aster stood at the center of the storm. Golden mana swirled around him, like the wings of an avenging angel. The pressure alone made it difficult to breathe. The true power of the 7 wings was beginning to leak out. For 10 years, Aster had waited. For 10 years, he had trained inside Viscount Hifrid's household. Every lesson, every battle, every sleepless night, all for one purpose: revenge. The golden light blazed brighter. A massive arc of energy swept across the arena. Aster wasn't just wielding a sword. He was wielding 10 years of hatred and a lifetime of experience from another world. Dolly's groaned in agony. His red mana disappeared beneath the golden tide. The four-wing crest, the pride of his life, looked like a tiny candle before an endless sun. The pressure was unbearable. Dolly's knees slammed into the stone floor. The sound echoed throughout the hall. "No," he gasped. The proud heir of the main family had fallen. A noble spectator stared in disbelief. "Be brother," he stammered. He couldn't understand what he was seeing. The heir of House Elmheim, the symbol of their power, reduced to this. The crowd gasped as one. Aster stood over Dolly's. Golden fire danced in his eyes. Reflected within them were the flames of his past life. To the Elmheim family, he wasn't a brother. He was a nightmare given flesh. Dolly's looked up. Sweat and blood covered his face. "No," he screamed. "I'm the heir." As if those words could save him. Aster's expression never changed. He didn't see a brother. He saw a parasite, something rotten that needed to be cut away. Their swords locked one final time. Cracks spread across Dolly's blade, tiny at first, then larger. The weapon trembled, just like its owner. The spectators could hardly believe it. "No way. He's actually winning. This can't be real." Their voices shook. Everything they knew about the Elmheim family was crumbling before their eyes. Dolly's is being completely overwhelmed. The words spread through the crowd, and for the first time in his life, Dolly's Elmheim felt true fear. The golden aura surrounding Aster made Dolly's red light look pitiful. The difference in strength was no longer a matter of opinion. It was undeniable. Fear spread through the hall like poison. There are still monsters like him in the Elmheim family. The nobles whispered among themselves. At last they understood. Aster wasn't just a talented young man. He was a threat, a danger to the very foundation of their world. Aster's golden eyes remained fixed on Dolly's through the swirling light. He savored the fear growing in his opponent's eyes. This was the exact moment a predator breaks its prey. 10 years of waiting had led to this. He was rebellion given form, and he wasn't finished yet. Above the arena, Viscount Hifrid and Ulfen watched in stunned silence. "This is bad." Hifrid felt his heart sink. He wasn't afraid of Aster losing. He was afraid of Aster winning. This duel wasn't simply changing the balance of power. It was tearing apart the hierarchy of the Elmheim family. The war hadn't just begun. It was already evolving into something far more terrifying. Dolly's gritted his teeth. Every muscle in his body trembled as he struggled against the crushing force of Aster's golden mana. The proud heir of the main family was being broken apart piece by a power he couldn't understand. The hierarchy of the Elmheims was collapsing before everyone's eyes. A memory flashed through Aster's mind. A severed arm, blood spraying through the air. The cold moment he lost everything. This wasn't merely a duel. It was repayment, a debt written in blood. Laughter echoed in his memories. Aster remembered Dolly's face from his previous life. That same cruel smile, that same joy he wore when delivering the final blow. The noble manners, the polite smile. It had all been a mask, one Dolly's had worn for far too long. Golden flames danced around Aster. He looked less like a man and more like judgment itself. The 7 wings weren't just a source of power. They were judge, jury, and executioner. He was no longer a child of the Branch family. He was the reckoning the Elmheims had feared. Dolly's pride finally shattered. "Stop." His voice cracked. "Please stop." The arrogant heir who mocked others was now begging for mercy. Mercy he had never shown anyone. High above, Ulfen's scream cut through the air. "No, Aster." Terror filled her voice. She realized her brother stood on the edge of a decision that would change their lives forever. She saw the darkness growing inside him, a darkness nobody else dared to acknowledge. Aster raised his sword. Golden light gathered around the blade. Then it fell. A sharp crack echoed through the arena. Dolly's sword shattered into countless pieces. Fragments scattered across the stone floor. His weapon was gone, and so was his spirit. Aster hadn't simply won. He had destroyed the pride of the main family. The arena fell silent. From the balcony, the bearded Viscount watched with folded arms. His expression remained calm, but his eyes were sharp. For the first time, the Tyrant family was paying attention to the Branch family. Not as servants, not as relatives, But as a threat, Aster stood alone in the center of the arena. His breathing was heavy. The golden aura slowly faded. Nearby, a broken piece of Dali's sword remained stuck in the stone floor, a crooked monument to the arrogance of the main house. Aster looked down at Dali's. The once-proud heir trembled at his feet. "Next time," Aster said calmly, "you should wear rags." Dali's eyes widened. Aster continued, "That way you won't mind getting soaked." He threw Dali's own cruel words back at him. The humiliation was complete. Aster's golden eyes glowed, and for the first time, he fully understood. There was no returning to the shadows. He had shown his fangs to the monsters of the world. Now they would never stop hunting him. Above him, Ulfen and Vicomte Hifrid stared in silence. Relief warred with fear. The boy they had raised had become the most dangerous person in the room. Aster closed his eyes briefly. A quiet smile touched his lips. "I'm no longer Ash the Wingless." The nickname once used to mock him now felt meaningless. The wingless boy had grown claws. Just realizing that finally puts my mind at ease. The fear that haunted him from his past life was fading. In its place remained something colder, something far more dangerous. Purpose. Then suddenly, the air froze. A sharp killing intent sliced through the hall. The remaining traces of golden mana vanished instantly. Every noble stiffened. Aster's instincts screamed. He knew this presence. A wave of dark crimson mana crashed through the room. It was heavy, violent, absolute. The crowd fell silent. This was the true power of the Tyrant family. Aster slowly turned. His eyes widened. No, his blood boiled. Standing at the top of the stairs was the man he had hated for 10 years. Lord Roderick A. Elmheim, the Duke of Elmheim. A sinister red aura pulsed around him. His presence was overwhelming, elegant, terrifying, a king among monsters. The tyrant was no longer watching from afar. He had stepped onto the stage, and his eyes were fixed entirely on Aster. Golden hatred burned within Aster. 10 years of resentment, 2 lifetimes of rage. He stared at the man who killed him in his previous life, the man who abandoned him in this one. His father, his greatest enemy. Roderick, the real war begins now. Shock spread throughout the ballroom. The impossible had happened. Aster, the youngest son of a Vicomte's family, had defeated the third son of the main house. The whispers returned, but this puts us in a terrible position. Once the main family's reputation is dragged through the mud, there is no recovering it. Lord Roderick A. Elmheim descended the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. The nobles lowered their heads. His presence alone was suffocating. Dali's lay sprawled across the floor, broken, humiliated. When he saw his father, he smiled. A desperate smile, the smile of a loser hopping to be saved. But Lord Roderick didn't look like a savior. He looked like a judge. Aster stood his ground. The air crackled between them. Lord Roderick's face remained expressionless.